All right, let's get one thing straight. This isn't some conspiracy theory I pulled from a dusty corner of the internet. This is a sequence. It's a predictable, observable, and frankly, terrifyingly logical chain of events that engineers and risk analysts have been charting for decades. The world we've built, this complex, convenient machine we call society, is a lot more fragile than we like to admit. We've created this incredible web of systems, all leaning on each other so perfectly that when one tips over, it's guaranteed to take the rest with it. This is the domino effect of societal collapse. And collapse isn't a single, Hollywood-style event where the world goes dark in a flash. It's a process. It's a cascading failure that rips through civilization, dismantling the pillars of our lives one by one. And here's the part most people don't get. It's not random. It follows a pattern. Understanding that pattern is the key to seeing what's coming next, instead of just being another victim of the chaos. So today, we're going to walk through that sequence. We're going to dissect the 5 critical systems that are the backbone of our world and show you exactly why they're set up to fail in a very specific order. This isn't about fear. This is about systems thinking. It's about peeling back the wallpaper of normalcy and looking at the cold, hard mechanics of how our world works and how it can stop. Within 72 hours of a nationwide grid failure, society doesn't just struggle. It crosses a point where recovery may no longer be possible. It's not a slow slide. It's a rapid, predictable sequence of collapses, starting with the one system you can't live without for more than a few hours. It starts with an unnatural silence, the constant hum of civilization just gone. No lights, no internet, no phone. But that's just the opening act. The real collapse, the one that unravels everything, has only just begun. I'm going to show you the 5 dominoes that fall first and the terrifying chain reaction that follows. Stick with me, because what you learn today might just change how you see everything. The timeline starts at 0. The second the grid goes down, everything else is already on borrowed time. Every great collapse has a keystone, the one piece that when you pull it, brings the whole damn arch down. In our world, that keystone is the power grid. It's not just a system. It's the system that runs all the other systems. It's the heart that pumps the lifeblood of electricity through the veins of our infrastructure. When that heart stops, everything else starts to die. And it will be the first to go. Why? Because the grid is a paradox. It's our most critical asset and our most glaring vulnerability. The infrastructure is ancient. We're talking transformers from the 60s and 70s being pushed to their absolute limits. After every recession, like the 2008 crash, credit freezes up and utility companies kick the can down the road on essential upgrades. The physical skeleton of the grid is brittle, and the price tag to fix it is in the trillions, money that is nowhere to be found. On top of that physical decay, you have a whole new world of threats. Cyber attacks aren't science fiction anymore. We saw what the Black Energy Trojan did to Ukraine's grid back in 2015, plunging hundreds of thousands into darkness. And then there's the low-tech stuff. A few well-placed physical attacks on substations could trigger cascading blackouts across entire regions. Our energy infrastructure is now a battleground, and we are shockingly unprepared. The people whose job it is to worry about this, the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, NERC, are sounding the alarm. Their recent assessments are grim. NERC's 2024 reliability assessment warns that exploding demand from data centers and the push for electrification are far outpacing the creation of new, reliable power. They project that vast areas of North America could face energy shortfalls during extreme weather events by 2026. Old reliable plants are being retired faster than new transmission lines can be built for intermittent sources like wind and solar. The grid is being stretched paper thin. So what does it look like when the keystone is pulled? It starts with a trigger, a solar storm, a cyber attack, or just a brutal heat wave. One substation overloads and trips, shunting its load to its neighbors. They can't handle the surge, so they trip too. It's a chain reaction, a wave of failure that ripples across the grid in minutes. The lights are out for millions, but the real problems are just getting started. First, information dies. Cell towers have a few hours of battery, tops, then silence. No internet, no TV, no radio. The official channels you think will guide you are gone. You're in an information vacuum, and that's where fear starts to breed. Then the second-order effects kick in. Gas pumps need electricity. The entire transportation network is now grounded. It doesn't matter if a station has full tanks underground. You can't get the fuel out. The movement of goods, people, and emergency services grinds to a halt. What about our money? It's just numbers on servers that need power. When the grid dies, the digital economy vanishes. ATMs are bricks. Credit card readers are useless. The entire concept of money becomes a fantasy because the system to verify it is gone. Commerce doesn't slow down. It stops, cold. The failure of the power grid isn't just an outage. It's the instantaneous shutdown of our society's central nervous system. It kills communication, finance, and transportation in one fell swoop. It's the first and biggest domino, and once it falls, it's already pulling the next one down with it. Within the first 24 to 72 hours, the second system fails, and this is where the real danger begins. The silence of the dead grid is quickly replaced by a much more primal fear: thirst. The second domino, falling within 24 to 72 hours of the first, is our water and sanitation system. This is the moment a widespread blackout turns into a biological crisis. We turn a tap, clean water appears. We flush a toilet, waste disappears. We've completely forgotten that this whole process is an industrial-scale magic trick, and it's powered entirely by electricity. Every single part of our water system runs on the grid. Massive pumps pull water from rivers and lakes. Treatment plants use electricity to filter it and kill the things that make you sick. Then, more pumps push that clean water up into water towers, which use gravity to give you water pressure. It's a non-stop 24/7 operation until the power cuts out. When the grid fails, the pumps stop. Simple as that. The flow of clean water into the system is cut off. Your town might have a day or two of water stored in those towers and pipes, but that buffer is terrifyingly small. Once people realize the taps aren't coming back on, every bottle of water in every store will be gone in hours. When the bathtub is empty and the last bottle is gone, real desperation kicks in. People will drink from swimming pools, from contaminated streams, from disgusting ponds. With no electricity for stoves and no reliable natural gas, most people can't even boil the water to make it safe. And that's when the diseases of the past make a roaring comeback. Cholera, dysentery, typhoid. These waterborne pathogens will rip through communities that are already stressed and weakened. But that's only half the horror story. It's not just about the lack of clean water coming in. It's about the sewage that can't get out. Our sanitation systems are a network of pipes that depend on hundreds of lift stations, pumps that keep the sewage moving toward a treatment plant. When the power goes out, those lift stations fail. The flow stops. Raw sewage backs up, first in the pipes, then into your house through floor drains and toilets. Then it overflows from manholes and floods the streets. We're talking about millions of gallons of untreated human waste pouring into the environment. A lack of clean water plus streets flooded with sewage is a biological time bomb. It's the perfect recipe for epidemics on a scale the modern world has never seen. This isn't just a hardship, it's the environment itself turning hostile. It turns a disaster into a public health catastrophe that even a fully functional healthcare system would be crushed by. But by this point, the healthcare system is already on its last legs. Within days, the system that keeps you fed, fueled, and medicated begins to unravel. The lights are out, the water is toxic, and now, the third system begins to disintegrate. The supply chain. This is the global network that keeps us fed, fueled, and medicated. You might think of it as a truck on a highway, but it's a fragile web of production, transport, and distribution built for one thing: just-in-time efficiency. This model has zero resilience. When the first two dominoes fall, the supply chain doesn't just bend, it shatters. Let's start with food. Your local grocery store is a miracle of logistics, but it's an illusion of abundance. In reality, it holds maybe 3 days' worth of food, and that's generous. The whole system depends on a constant stream of deliveries. The moment the grid fails, that stream is cut off. First, refrigeration goes. All the meat, dairy, and frozen goods start to spoil. There will be a frantic, brief period where people try to consume it all, but that won't last. The bigger problem is that resupply is impossible. Farms use electric irrigation. Food processing plants are silent. And those massive refrigerated warehouses? They are now giant spoilage containers. But the real killer is transportation. As we covered, no power means no fuel pumps. The entire fleet of long-haul trucks that are the lifeblood of the supply chain is grounded. A driver might get another 100 miles on what's in his tank, but then he's done. The trucks are stuck. The distribution centers they're driving to are paralyzed anyway. These are automated warehouses run by robots and electric forklifts. Without power, they're just buildings full of stuff you can't get to. The food is there, but it might as well be on Mars. The same thing happens to fuel. Refineries need a staggering amount of electricity. They shut down. The pipelines that move gas and diesel across the country use electric pumps. They stop flowing. The result is a fuel famine, which not only keeps the trucks parked, but also kills any hope of using generators for widespread backup power. A generator is useless without fuel. Then there's medicine. This is maybe the most fragile chain of all. Many crucial medicines like insulin and vaccines need to be kept cold. When the power goes, the cold chain is broken. Pharmacists and warehouses have to watch millions of dollars of life-saving drugs become useless. But even for pills that don't need a fridge, the problem is the same. The factories are shut down and the global shipping network has ceased to exist. One analyst who charted this out, Dmitry Orlov, calls this stage commercial collapse. It's the point where the faith that the market will provide dies. Money is worthless because there's nothing to buy. The entire system of global trade just vanishes. This is what turns shortages into true, widespread scarcity, and it sets the stage for the collapse of the one system we think will save us. As days turn into weeks, the last line of defense, the healthcare system, starts to collapse. When people are sick from bad water, injured from the chaos, and their chronic conditions are spiraling out of control, everyone turns to the last bastion of hope, the healthcare system. But this is the fourth domino. A hospital isn't a fortress. It's an incredibly complex machine that is just as dependent on power, water, and supplies as everything else. The collapse of the healthcare system happens in 3 waves. The first is internal failure. Sure, hospitals have backup generators. Regulations demand they have enough fuel for 72 to 96 hours. But that's not a solution. It's a countdown timer. A timer until they need more fuel. Fuel that isn't coming. When the generators go quiet, it's game over. Ventilators, dialysis machines, and surgical equipment all go dark. Electronic health records are inaccessible. The hospital is instantly thrown back into the medical dark ages. At the same time, the water stops. Modern medicine is built on sanitation. Without running water, you can't wash hands, sterilize instruments, or clean rooms. The hospital, a place meant to heal, rapidly becomes a hotbed of disease. The second wave is the supply chain collapsing on their doorstep. Hospitals also run on a just-in-time model. They have only a few days' stock of antibiotics, IV fluids, and bandages. When the deliveries stop, the shelves go bare. Fast. There are no more antibiotics for the infections, no more sutures for the wounds, no more IV bags for the dehydrated. On top of all that, The staff can't get to work. Doctors and nurses have families too. Their cars are out of gas. Their own homes are out of water. They're forced to choose between their job and protecting their own family. This creates a staffing nightmare right when they're needed most. The third and final wave is the patient surge, a tsunami of the sick and injured. You have waves of people with dehydration and cholera. You have trauma victims from accidents and violence. You have people with diabetes and heart disease whose medication has run out. The system, already strained on a good day, is completely overwhelmed. Triage becomes brutal. Soon the hospital isn't a place of healing. It becomes a hospice, and then little more than a morgue. The loss of the healthcare system is a massive psychological blow. It's the moment society officially tells you, you are on your own. This realization is what finally triggers the fall of the fifth and final domino. Within weeks, when every other system has failed, law and order doesn't disappear. It breaks down. When the power is gone, the water's poisoned, the shelves are bare, and the hospitals are closed, what's left? Only the thin agreement we call law and order. This is the last domino. Its collapse isn't a single event. It's the final symptom of a disease that has been rotting society from the inside out. This is the moment a society stops being a society and becomes just a collection of desperate people. The breakdown starts when the institutions of law enforcement are crippled. Police cars need fuel. Their radios need electricity. All the digital databases they rely on are offline. Cops, just like nurses, have families. Many will be forced to stay home to protect them, causing the police force to effectively dissolve. Even for the officers who show up, what can they do? With no communication or dispatch, they can't coordinate. A single patrol car is an island, easily outnumbered. The psychological power of the police, the idea that they are everywhere and will always come, evaporates. When people realize 911 is a deadline, a fundamental rule of the social contract is broken. This paralysis hits right as desperation in the population boils over. A person watching their child go thirsty is not governed by the same rules as they were a week ago. Survival becomes the only morality that matters. This is when you see widespread systematic looting. Not for TVs, but for canned food and medicine. People will siphon gas from abandoned cars. They'll break into homes they think are empty. This isn't about good versus bad people. It's about the desperate versus the prepared. And the desperate are the overwhelming majority. As Dmitry Orlov outlined in his Stages of Collapse, this is where political and social faith dies. The belief that the government will take care of you is gone. The government's laws become meaningless suggestions because it has failed its most basic duty, keeping its citizens alive. In this power vacuum, new informal structures emerge. Neighborhoods might band together for defense. Gangs, already organized and armed, will thrive, seizing territory and resources. The rule of law is replaced by the rule of force. The final stage is what Orlov chillingly calls cultural collapse, where faith in the goodness of humanity is lost. The trust that binds us, the basic agreement not to harm each other, is gone. Every stranger is a potential threat. This fear dissolves communities and even families. It is the ultimate social fracture. And that's the end of the line. It starts with a technical problem, a grid failure, and ends in a moral and social catastrophe. It proves our advanced world isn't a fortress. It's a fragile house of cards. Pull out that first card, and the rest are doomed to follow in a predictable, terrifying sequence. Look, if this sequence we've just laid out lit a fire under you, good. It was supposed to. Being aware of these vulnerabilities is the first step toward actually doing something about them. So if you want to go deeper, subscribe and hit the notification bell. We're going to be dissecting each of these systems in future videos. Not just how they break, but the practical things you can actually do to protect yourself and your family. And I want to hear from you. Which of these 5 systems has you the most worried? What are you already doing to prepare? Drop it in the comments. The shared knowledge in this community is one of the most powerful tools we have. So there you have it. The 5 dominoes of societal collapse. It starts with the power grid, the master switch for our entire world. Its failure triggers the collapse of water and sanitation, turning a crisis into a plague. That shatters the just-in-time supply chains, starving us of food, fuel, and medicine. The healthcare system, swamped and starved of resources, is the 4th to fall. And finally, with every other support gone, law and order fractures, and society as we know it dissolves. This isn't a wild guess. It's the logical result of the interconnected world we've built. Our complexity is our strength in good times and our fatal weakness in a crisis. Knowing this pattern isn't about being paranoid. It's about being realistic. It's about understanding that in a world of cascading failures, the ultimate responsibility for your safety rests with you. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and stay informed.